Welcome to Bass and Boundaries podcast. I'm your host, Amy G, and this is your one-stop shop for all things mental health and music. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Bass and Boundaries, your one-stop shop for all things mental health and music. I'm joined by somebody I found on TikTok, and I've been listening to your stuff quite a lot, actually. So I'm going to introduce you as Innova. Hello, my lovely. How are you?
Hello, I'm very well, thanks. How are you?
All good, all good. I was just asking you actually, what is the inspiration behind Innova?
So it's quite a simple story, but essentially, when I decided to go solo as a drum and bass artist, because I used to be in a duo
Okay.
in 2024 making drum and bass called Human Theory. I'm not sure if you ever heard of Human
I
Theory.
have.
So
Yeah.
I was the other half of Human
Ah,
Theory
no
at
way.
the time, and then I left that, and I wanted for a while. I stayed away from drum and bass. I was like, I don't want to make drum and bass anymore. And then it got to May, June last year, and I was just feeling a real inspiration to restart making drum and bass again. I thought I'd go solo this time, and I did. So I was thinking, what name could I have? And originally, I was called Nova Shift. Um,
Okay.
it was Nova Shift, but like at first, I was like, "Oh, that's a cool name." And then a few people said they liked it, but then there was someone that mentioned and said, "Actually, I think it's a bit cringe in a way." So but the reason I called myself Nova Shift at the time was because Nova means new beginning, so it's like
Yes.
a new star, new beginning. And then the shift was like it's a shift to a new beginning. So that was
Yeah.
the inspiration for that.
Love that.
And then I realized it was a bit of a cringy name. So then I was like, I literally had my first track ready, which was Gone. It's called Gone. And that was coming out, I think September, October. But it was like a month before, and I was like, I've got to come up with a better name. And then I'm not going to lie. I remember I was with my mate Rich going to D&B All Stars this last year, and we literally spent the whole bus journey trying to figure out a name. And on the way back, we still didn't come up with anything. And then I spoke to the guy that years ago taught me a lot about how to make drum and bass, and he then he came up with the he said what he said. I said I want to try and stick with Nova if I can. And he said, "What about Innova?" And then I looked into it, and there was a couple of other people called Innova, but no one making drum and bass called Innova. And I liked it, and a few people said, "Actually, I think it has a good ring to it."
Yeah,
And
it
now
does.
it's like it's just I I really feel like I am Innova now, which is a nice thing because people, when they comment on TikTok or whatever, send messages, they'll call me Innova, and it really feels like that's me now. So
I love that though, because I think with any sort of like DJ name, it's got to sound like it rolls. And that was the one thing that I struggled with Bass and Boundaries. I asked ChatGPT, I was Googling it, like, what can I call my podcast? And I was like, so I did a lot of brainstorming as well. And I came up with Bass and Boundaries because mental health and music is where my little niche is. And I help people create boundaries, but also I talk to people. It's like a big umbrella. It's lovely, isn't it? You know, when you just got something and it works.
yeah. I think it's a brilliant name. I loved it even as soon
You.
as I heard it, and then you sent me the link to the like when we first got in touch, and I watched some of the bits of your podcast, and I love the vibe, and I just it's almost like I'm surprised Based on Boundaries hasn't been taken. Almost like it's a really like solid name.
It
Um,
it's there was one that I saw online where they'd written like a newsletter and it was like base and boundaries, and I was like, I don't think so. So I've snapped it up quickly because I did think about trademarking it, but it's so expensive.
yeah, yeah,
And also I don't it's one of them. But I think for like choosing a name in particular, you want a name that people are going to remember. And I looked at my reach, especially on Spotify, and it was like 2,000 people searched base and boundaries last month. And I was like, wow, that's crazy. Like, you don't think that these things are going to happen for you because you've tried things before, they don't work. Have you found that with making content, like making music, where you've sat with something and it's you think in your head, oh my God, it's the best thing I've ever produced? It hasn't taken off. Has it given you like a setback? Or are you one that's like, well, on to the next one, that sort of thing?
Well, I mean, I mentioned earlier my first track was called "Gone," and that didn't really it wasn't bad. In the first week, it got like 3,000 streams in the first week, which isn't bad. It's just because Human Theory, like the previous project, had got a lot more. Like one of our tracks called "Hypnotize" got I mean, now it's over 1 million listens, but it got to 12,500 listens in the first week. So when I
Wow.
heard, and I was aiming high, and I was like, it got 3,000, and then it just didn't grow, and it's my least popular track still to date,
Really?
unfortunately. But then I released. I thought I've got to keep going. I was like, I feel like I might be onto something, even though it's not. I'm sort of in the. I like to call it the valley of despair. Um, and um, and then I released my second track in end of November called "The Escape."
Yeah.
And at first that didn't hit. It like I'm pretty sure it got less than 2,000 listens
I'm
in the
just
first
looking
week.
now. I'm just
Yeah, yeah,
looking
that's
now,
right.
yeah.
It got
Wow.
less than 2,000 listens in the first week, and I was scratching my head thinking, should I carry on? I was like, I don't know if this is working. Am I not good enough on my own? Making music on my own. And then I did a little course, which is where I got the name, the phrase "Valley of Despair" from. This guy called, you must have seen him on TikTok, Troy Titley.
Yes,
Must
I
have
have.
seen.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, so
yeah.
I invested a little bit, and I basically learned a bit more about how to put your music first on TikTok, not become a content creator in terms of like influencer.
Yep.
So really focusing on the music. And I started using those posts from the start of January this year, posting much more often, but the posts are really simple to make. And
Yeah.
then all of a sudden, within like 2 weeks, first 2 weeks into January, The Escape got 7,000 listens in a day. It just
Wow.
hit, and I was like, I woke up and I looked at it. I was like, "You what?" And then it just grew. I ended up going up to 40,000 monthly listeners by
Yep.
February. But then now it's kind of gone back down. It's now something like 25 or 26,000.
But it does vary, doesn't it? It's like a
Oh yeah,
variable
it
thing,
fluctuates,
yeah.
and it's all normal. But yeah, and then it kind of, and then so many people commented. It's because I got some viral videos, somewhat I say viral videos. One of my videos got like 115,000 views on TikTok, which is the most viewed, and that was for The Escape, and that's definitely what translated to more listens on Spotify. I think The Escape's now 200,000 listens, which is still my most
Yeah,
popular track. But
yeah.
I'm just trying to. I mean, it doesn't matter if I don't make a more popular track, but I'm always trying to improve and better myself. So I'm hoping one of my next releases will come out and then eventually become even more popular than The Escape. Who knows? Um,
So I really am enjoying Set Me Free, and it's something that,
oh,
let me tell you, like, honestly, I couldn't articulate it into words when I heard it. So I've I usually have my music on, especially late in the evening if I can't sleep, and I'll have my AirPods in and I'm just kind of in my own head. And when I had that track on, it feels like you're just being transported to another reality. And
oh,
honestly, music like that for me, I feel music and it has such an impact on me. And I was like, wow, suddenly I'm on Pluto, loving this. Like, and it's nice because there's a lot of music nowadays. I've spoke about this in another podcast with another artist where a lot of things are on repetition.
mm,
Like you go up to anybody like in the music industry and you'll say, "What is your favorite or sub focus?" And I'm going to make music. I'm going to make drum and bass, and they try and make music like sub focus.
yeah,
I've found it, and I'm still yet to figure this out. So on my playlist, I've heard a song by an artist recently, and I was like, "Where have I heard those lyrics before? Where have I heard those?" And I'm playing it in my head. I'm going, I've heard those lyrics. I'm gaslighting myself thinking I've gone crazy. No, there was another track. There must be on some apps or whatever when you're creating music where there must be like sample packs of lyrics. There must be.
yeah.
There
Yeah, oh, no,
is.
there absolutely is. Well, there's vocalists that, they sell their vocals as a sample pack, and
I
I've seen
knew
I've
it.
got I've had adverts come up on Instagram and be like, "These beautiful vocals for drum and bass," and I'm like, I mean, I can't use that. Personally, I wouldn't, just because if especially because there's gonna be hundreds of other people that are gonna use those same vocals, and it's a crossover. The only thing I will say is that I do use Splice,
Yeah.
but more for
Yeah.
things like atmospheres and, drum samples and stuff like that, and
Yeah. Of
drum
course.
samples, I would be very surprised if you could tell, a kick drum that's the same in another track, like, because 'cause they're yeah. So
There's
yeah.
so many, yeah. And to be honest with you, there's a lot of things that I've learned along the way, especially like for me, my little therapy, if you will, is I'm in my car and I do a lot of footage of me singing in the car because that's when I'm one of those vocalists. It's funny really, but if I'm actively being recorded and I know I'm recording, suddenly I can't hit those notes anymore because I get a bit of stage fright. And when I'm in my car, I don't think about it because I'm concentrating on the road. So one of my friends said the other day, she went, "Flipping heck, you hit a new note today." And I'm like, "I know I did, didn't I?" Like, it's one of them, isn't it? Like when you're playing your own voice back, or do you feel cringy when sometimes you play your own music back and you go, "Oh no, I don't like it," even though, or do you just go,
I
"Wow,
mean, honestly, because when you make a track, because I think if you're like a rock in a rock band, you're a guitarist or something,
yeah,
you could lay down an album in a day if you wanted to. Like you could just smash it all out. You've practiced and you smash it all out in a day. Whereas a drum and bass track, and in general with EDM and bass music, I've found. Um, I mean, I always try and get a track. I mean, have been actually getting a track out every 4 to 5 weeks.
wow,
But in that time, I mean, I will even say I'm not even producing every day, but I get in sessions when I'm feeling the vibe, and you listen to them so much, and I'm quite lucky because it's even though it does bother me a little bit when you've heard it, you know, you're having to play bits on loop when you're working on certain sections, and it does you get tired of it, obviously, but when I've made music that resonates with me more, or at least music that the way I do it is especially more recently, and actually the first track I did with it was the Escape with the lyrics, and the
mm,
feeling it gave me is music that has lyrics in it that, helps me in some way or is, like, relevant to me in that time. It's like
yeah,
they always say, "Write what you know," and for me, um, the music that I've written that stands out to me more, that hits me, evokes some form of emotion, is the music that, you know, like, for example, "Set Me Free," what you mentioned that is like it's only got the lyrics "Set me free and be free," but that speaks to me because it's based on my anxiety,
yeah,
um, and, you know, "Set me free" is essentially, you know, me maybe my future self it's like me crying out to my future self saying, "Set me free from this anxiety," for example.
yeah, of
Can be
course.
applied in however you want, but then when it says "Be free" and it's sung "Be free," that's like my future self saying to me, "You can be free."
I love that.
From those. So that's where it speaks to me more, and it's really. By the way, I really appreciate the compliment you said with the how it made you feel when you
Yeah,
listened to it. But then going back to the yeah, I think when I've written music that speaks to me more, it's a lot easier to listen to it because I'm almost what I end up doing is I'll finish a track, get it all
yeah,
mastered, and then get it set for release 4 weeks in advance, and then I won't listen to it for ages. Like I'll just it's done, so I just leave it and then because I've rinsed it by having in terms of having to make it, you know, to listen to it to perfect it as much as I possibly can. But then when it comes out, or like the week I always promote it 1 week before, um, essentially I listen to it again. It's almost like fresh ears. So then when I record, you know, short form content for promoting on TikTok or Instagram, um, it's not as bad because I've left such a gap.
mm,
And also then I'm like also even once it's come out, then I'll leave it for another month or two. And then like if I'm making another video for the content, it's fresh again. And yeah, I think at least I've found with it as a producer, you don't I would say it's a mistake to have produced a track, finished it, and then rinse it on repeat because, you know, I mean, at the very beginning, I'm slightly embarrassed to say that when you're proud you've made something, you want to listen to it because you're like, oh, I'm happy I made this. But I've stopped doing that. And I actually find that it's better when you leave it for ages and then, you know, it's not, I'm hoping it's not sounding like I don't know if you describe that as narcissistic or liking listening to your own
no,
music. Not,
no,
I will say that a lot of the time I don't like listening to my own music, but then when I've made something that hits me because of that emotion and that it means something to me, it's a lot easier for me to listen to it than if it was just, you know, the lyrics in Gone, for example, they don't mean
yeah.
anything to me. They're just about like a potential, you know, it says nothing matters till it's gone, but yeah.
No, and honestly, like, no, there's nothing wrong with it. Because the thing is, for me, like I'm exactly the same. Like, if I make a TikTok, for prime example, and it's hitting the right. So I did one about limerence, and it generated like 50,000 views. I must have played that back like, where did I go right? And I'm like taking
Yeah.
notes down. What, and that came from the heart. Like most of my content, and this is something that frustrates me as a creator. I go to networking events, and I speak to these people and are like, you have to do this strategy and you have to do this strategy. And I'm like, I don't want to. And I don't want to because it's not coming from the heart, it's coming from
Yeah.
here. And that doesn't work because a lot of the reasons I set this podcast up was because drum and bass literally saved my life. I was at such a horrible time in my life. And I found 1991 and Drumadick, and this is like talking 2018. And I went, it was only because I was listening to concert like Bring Me the Horizon, Grimes. I was listening to all those kinds of and the thing is, sometimes with heavy rock, it can make you feel more depressed.
Mm.
And I was sat there one day going, oh, I haven't listened to Pendulum for ages. And that Pendulum was like my 15-year-old inner child living her best life at Rock City, like, oh, loving life. And I was like, "Oh, just listen to a bit of Pendulum, bit of a pick me up." And then it kind of spiraled. And that's how I found drum and bass. And since then, so all these years later, it's been such a heavy part of my life. But I don't I don't think people understand, like, yes, the rave community, we all have each other. We go to raves, but we're feeding off effectively the DJ that's producing the sound. He's and or she is the person that's creating that. And then it's like, well, who's looking after those people? Who's looking after the artists? Who's talking to the DJs about how they're feeling about things? You know, and that's where there was topics about AI. There's been topics about mental health. Like, how has music helped your mental health? Like,
Yeah, I mean, it's a very similar thing for me with the fact that music saved my life. I first started first instrument I played when I was 7 years old. I played double bass. The big,
nice,
yeah.
nice.
So I played that. Then when I was 12, I started playing guitar. That's my main instrument, and then played guitar a lot until I was about 19, 20. Then I started to play less and less guitar. And I got introduced. I'm 29 now. I got introduced to drum and bass when I was 21. Um, and obviously, I'd heard like on the in a shop or something. I'd heard Afterglow, and I thought, oh, that sounds nice. But when I first got introduced to it properly, I was like, how did I not know this existed? And I was like, this is incredible. And I then went for a period of like 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022 of basically only listening to drum and bass, like
Yep,
nearly only like if you look at my like 2021 Spotify Wrapped or 2022 is literally like 90% drum and bass.
guilty.
And I just it really did help me, because it's different. I don't know if it's something to do with well, of course, the bass frequencies I've heard they can help in different ways, and then with the tempo as well. It's just like it's also interestingly like even if I'm at a rave and they play house music, I can't dance. I'm trying to do like a two step. I can't really dance to it. Whereas as soon as drum and bass comes on, I don't care if I can't dance. I move to it and
Yeah, it's
I'm
like,
going with it.
isn't
It's
it?
that
Like, you're
bop.
just going. Yeah.
You're going backwards and forwards. Yeah, and
Everyone can dance at a rave for drum and bass. It's
yeah,
fact.
and that it's weird that like it brings out that side of me, and it's just that's why I ended up going when I well pretty much always when I've wanted to produce drum and bass, it's always been more of that euphoric
Yeah.
vibe. And that that same as like you were saying, like Andromedic 1991, they're some of my huge inspirations as well. Um, and yeah, and I feel like with I actually my worst times of mental health was between the age of 17 and 19,
Mm.
really bad. And at the time, it was metal music that helped me at that time get through that. But then when I wish that in some sense, well, I'm happy with how things have gone, but like in some sense, I wish that I'd been introduced to drum and bass a lot earlier, because I feel like then it could have been even better than like you're
Yeah.
saying with metal to drum and bass, it's different, but um, yeah, my mental health has definitely been a lot better, but in terms of anxiety, um, my anxiety's only really started to properly improve in the last few months. Um,
Mm.
but I feel like listening to music, at the right times when is and I think this is why I don't listen to drum and bass all the time anymore. I listen to drum and bass when I'm feeling I want to and need to.
Yeah.
That when it's certain times of the day when you're just like it's perfect. And the nice thing is that there's so many subgenres of drum and bass that can be different for different moods as well, which is nice. There's not really many genres that have such a diverse like amount of subgenres
Mm.
in within one genre. Um, but yeah, no, the last thing I'll say about that is just uh, I will have times of the day when if something a bit like has made me feel a bit sad or a bit low or whatever, something's happened. There's an artist called Ethan French.
Yep.
Yeah, he went viral on Instagram a few weeks ago with one of his tracks, and I ended up going through his profile, and there's a song called Everything Changes.
Mm.
Um, as soon as I heard that, I listened to it and I was like, "What is this?" And it's not drum and bass, it's just a very, very relaxed kind of, but emotional, pure emotion. And that now I come back to that every now and again, and that's when I listen to that, and it helps my emotions kind of not be kind of suppressed, but they come out, and it all feels more natural. And then yeah, so I will say that I listen to different genres of music at different points of the day for different reasons, you know?
I think that works so for so many artists as well. I mean, for me, like drum and bass helps me in the morning. Like just like this morning, prime example, I had to go post a parcel, 9:30, absolute windows down, smashing out drum and bass. I don't care if the whole of my town, they don't like it. I don't care. Like, and it's such a good thing. But then on the other side of it, when I'm not feeling so good, sometimes that high intensity music doesn't work when you're feeling sad or lonely or isolated. But then I'm learning not to listen to, like, I wouldn't be smashing out Adele if I want to have a good cry. Do you know what I mean? Because it makes me worse. I need
Mm.
something kind of mellow in the middle. Um, so I was listening to a bit of Halsey this morning. I've not listened to her for years. And I was like, oh gosh, like some of her words, like, very much ring close to me, the experiences that I've been through, and I think that's the beauty with music, like, when you're on your day to day and you're driving about and you see people with the music on in their car and they're just vacant, and I feel like sometimes
Yeah.
people are, like, genuinely vacant people, and then when you're coming back, like, and every now and again, you'll see someone with their windows down and they're proper going for it, and you're like, "That's my type of person." And I feel like, honestly, some people either do or they don't with music, and some people just listen to it because it's a noise, but some people genuinely listen and they go, "There's a story behind this," and it's beautiful, genuinely beautiful.
If it's all right, say I'll give you 2 examples. Sometimes I have to when I produce and I've got my track to, like, a good point, of course, I listen to it on headphones, I've got my monitors, like, my speaker
Yeah, of
monitors,
course.
and then I reference it in my car, and my car's on the street outside my house, but it's like sometimes you have to park further down,
Yeah.
and one time I was referencing it not even that loud, and it's not even that loud from outside, but some neighbor, like, some nearby came out of a house, knocked on my car window, and said, "Can you turn that noise off, please?" And I was like, "I'm really sorry." And I turned it really low so I could still hear it, but it was a lot lower. But I was just there vibing, like, but
As
yeah.
you do,
And then
you
the
know.
other one was, I had a video that I did on, um, TikTok recently for Set Me Free to promote Set Me Free. I
Yeah,
think
of
it was like
course.
2 days ago. And, someone just I put something like, you know, with the caption was like, "Let me know what you think," whatever. And someone just put, "Awful track, lol." And I just replied and said, something like, "Thanks," and then the laughing emoji. And then, one of the people that follows me on TikTok who's really consistent with she's lovely. Shout her out, Sarah Temple. Hope she doesn't mind me shouting her out. But, like, she's been very supportive. Uh she loves, basically said she loves all my tracks, and I really appreciate it a lot. And she replied to that comment that put awful track lol, and I can't remember exactly what she put. She put something like, oh no, she said, I think you misspelt the word awesome.
I love that. Oh, that's cute. I love that.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, isn't it? Because, like, you're gonna get that in this industry. You're gonna have people like for me, I went to a networking event not too long ago and I was doing a presentation to a bunch of people who've got different businesses. I'm talking like banking, all these people. And they were like, what do you do? And I'm trying to explain what drum and bass has. And someone piped up in the corner, oh, it's just bloody noise.
I
And I was
know.
like, yeah, maybe to you, honey, but not to me. So and I think that's it, isn't it? Like you're gonna be up against criticism, but it's just pushing through it and going, you don't have to like me, and I'm okay with that. Like, and that's where the self-awareness and self-assuredness comes in, isn't it?
Absolutely, and I think actually I've learned to, when I'm making my tracks, sometimes I show people around me, whether it be friends or family or you know, a few people, and to get opinions, you know, so maybe might have a thing or think, oh, actually, maybe they say I think something could be slightly different in this section, whatever. And I showed a friend of mine my latest track, which is coming out after Set Me Free, um, and I really think that track really speaks to me, and I showed him, and he was just like, well, it's all right. And I was like, And he's thing is, he's not like a real drum and bass fan, but he loves my
Okay.
track Animal, so he loves Animal, and he loves Existence, which is my second least popular track, but he loved that, so it's like it's very strange, but some people like some things and others don't, but, like, I from that I learned because then I showed my other friend, um, I showed him, and he was like, I'm not gonna swear, but he essentially said, "That's, sick," you know, um,
I love that.
and yeah, so, it kind of it taught me to be like, well, maybe I don't need to show this other friend my music because it's not the
Yeah.
kind of right audience that would actually appreciate it, you know. And then, even with Set Me Free, the same friend didn't really vibe with Set Me Free at all, and he
Wow.
said it's not that good. And I was like, I mean, he was just being honest for his opinion. I appreciate it that he's an honest friend. That's very appreciative of him, and he wasn't trying to be a you know
A
bad person
douchebag.
in that sense.
Yeah.
He was just being honest, and then I was like, maybe Set Me Free is not as good as I think. And then I started posting about it on TikTok, but just before it came out, and people were like, "Oh my god, this is awesome!" And I was
It is
like,
good.
"Oh,
No,
reassuring,"
it is good. Like I say, if someone can transport themselves to a different dimension, then it works. And it also sounds good in my car because I have a speaker system in my car that is very bassy. And I was quite happy with it. When I got the car, it was like that was the first thing. I'm one of them people. If I'm getting a new car, I need to test the system out first. And people look at me in these car showrooms like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "No," because if I'm
You
driving,
got just yeah, yeah.
yeah, I got to test it out, and that's the thing. And I got a Hyundai i10 for as a courtesy car once, and it had this manufacturer's setting to protect your ears. I say that very loosely, and it was the tinniest speaker system.
Oh,
I was like, I'd never drive that. You never pay me to drive that. It's got to sound bassy, and my car's terrible on fuel, but she is worth every second because I can turn that up loud, go deaf, and live my best life. So, do you find that you really vibe to music then? Is if you've heard it in your car, that is yeah, that's a thing. It's definitely
I
a
will
thing.
say that when I got my car, year and a half ago, it's literally the first thing I tested was like, I was like, "Let me connect to the Bluetooth," like
Literally, like, if it hasn't got good speaker system, I don't wanna know. That's I mean, I did consider I used to have it years ago. I had a Skoda Kodiaq. It was a big seven-seater thing. And that was the only reason I bought the car was, yeah, the size was brilliant. It was terrible on fuel, but the speaker had the speaker system was like Harman Kardon, and it had a sub built into the boot. Wow, you heard me coming a mile away. It was so like my steering wheel was shaking. It was that
yeah.
loud. I missed that car just for that reason. So who inspires you? Who are like your
Um,
favorite people?
Artist-wise or family or friends?
All of the above. Go for it. Start with music.
Music, so I mentioned earlier Andromedic 1991,
Absolutely.
Camo and Crooked,
Yep.
um, uh honestly, it's strange because it's not just drum and bass artists that inspire me. Like even um, music for I don't know if you've heard of Dream Theater, a metal band. Yeah, I saw them live when I was 17, and it was just amazing because that they also evoke emotion, and that's something that I if a song can evoke emotion and it evokes emotion in me,
Yep.
I it speaks to me and then I love it. But yeah, other artists. I mean, like even have you heard of Circadian?
Yes, I have.
Yeah, Circadian. I love Circadian and, Pyrrhopus as well. I think actually I pronounced that wrong. Is it Pyrrhopus?
I don't know because I think it could be Parappas, but I
Is it
don't
Parappa?
know. But I saw them live when Andromedic did his invites in
Yeah.
London. They were
Oh, wow.
oh my God. Literally, I was like literally stood in front of the one with like the curly hair because
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
only him, the duo, because apparently one was in one country. And anyway, but honest to God, live, they are incredible.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Absolutely insane. Like, I've
Yeah.
never oh,
Yeah,
amazing.
I still need to see them live,
You
and,
need
I mean,
to.
I love their music as well, like, it's so high energy, and, I
Yep.
play some of their tracks in my when I do DJ sets as well. Um, I actually a nice blend that I found is between from their track, No Surrender, No Retreat, to then my track Animal. It's just like it just works for
Oh,
anywhere.
that's mint. Oh,
Um,
I love that though. Imagine I that's the thing because 'cause I've never produced tracks myself, but, like, I would have the most such satisfaction of being able to take a favorite tune of mine, being able to blend it with my own. That's mint. I like
yeah.
that.
There's another one, it's the Beat Down VIP, uh, which doubles perfectly with my track Elevate, and it actually makes my track Elevate better.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah,
Oh, that's
it's like
mint.
I'm not gonna lie, I might do a VIP of my own tracks at some point, like, maybe in the future if I ever wanna, you know, improve them and do a variation in production, but, when I like, because that first drop, I still think it's good, you know, it's my 3rd most popular track, but it's like, when I tried out the blend with the Beat Down VIP when it came into, the 2nd drop, and I blended it with the 1st drop, and I was like, I literally got I felt like it was almost some form of like, I don't wanna say quite goosebumps, but it was like,
Like a dopamine hit.
yeah, literally dopamine hit. It just kind of you feel slightly weightless, and I was like, yeah, this is great. Um, but yeah, so other inspirations in terms of like friends, like um, I'm extremely grateful to my both my parents. Like, I don't think I'd be anywhere near where I am now if I didn't have their support with growing up and everything. And um, but friends wise, like my friends Rich and George, ridiculously supportive. And when I did a DJ set in Portugal, it was at a mini festival. I did a workaway there, and I helped create the place for the festival. It was in the middle of nowhere, in the mountains in Portugal, in the forest, and
Wow.
we did like a festival at the end of July last year. And I'd done like the 8 weeks prior to that, like helping, which is where I then got into gardening. Anyway, um, I did a DJ set there on the Sunday night, and it just went ridiculously well. I don't know how I pulled it off, but like there was like 150 people on the in the middle of this forest dancing, and Rich and George were there, and they were so supportive. They came behind like to the decks and stuff, and um, it was just yeah, they're really good mates. And uh, George still lives locally, but Rich has moved to Australia, and but he'll be back in a year's time or so. But they're like huge inspirations to me of even just who they are as people. And I feel like something that I've learned is that being having people around you that you really respect and that you care about, and or like even just who they are as people. When you hang around people that you want to be like, you end up kind of being more like that. Whereas if you hang around with people that you know you don't want to be like, for example, then that ends up rubbing off on you, and then you're more like that. And George and Rich are like 100% people I'd want to be like. So
That's really, really lovely actually, because I think that's the only thing, isn't it? Like when you're in the, going into music, you're creating music, you're going to rub shoulders with people. And personally speaking, for the most part, I would say 99% of guests that I've had on are people I too would love to be like because they're just genuinely good people. But there has been a couple where I'm just a bit like, okay, this is going to be a difficult thing. And so some of them I've had to sit down and go, do I post this? Because this can this be seen as controversial? And do you know when it's like this, it's an easy conversation. There's no frills, there's no fluff. It's just straight to the point. That's what people need, whole, honest conversations. I see a lot of these podcasts these days and they're all about drama. They're about what Katie Price and her husband are doing, or what's this celebrity doing with this. And I just think to myself, like, wholesome content needs to be pushed more because people need it in this day and age. Like, we're in a society now that is so toxic that we all kind of lose ourselves a little bit, don't we? Where we think like we're trying to, that's where anxiety comes in with me. I'm like, am I doing the right thing? Is this happening? Is that going to work for me? And your head starts spiraling. But then I suppose when you put your energy into your craft, you can really channel it in a positive way. And that's what I love that about, especially about drum and bass, because for the most part, everyone's suffering in one way or another.
I actually think the thing that you said about having more wholesome content, I think that's so needed, especially nowadays with everything with AI. Like I think AI is just uh, because it's so prevalent nowadays in social media, and people aren't knowing what's what, and there's so much fakeness. I feel like there's going to be even more in the next year, or however long. There's going to be kind of like resurgence, like a massive amount of people going, I don't want anything fake. I would just want, like you're saying, wholesome content, real stuff, real conversations,
Yeah.
real interactions, and it's I don't know. I mean, I don't know if you'd call that a revolution or something. I'm not sure what the right terminology is for that, but I really believe in that because I will admit, I think it's in. it's a shame, and I might change it because it's not decided yet. But the only time I've never used AI for my music, and I never would,
Mm,
not
mm,
even for vocals or anything. Nothing. I'd never use AI, not even to mix my tracks. You know,
that's amazing.
nothing like a mastering plugin, even absolutely not. But I was struggling to come up with the concept for the artwork for the Escape, and that's the only artwork where I did some editing to it anyway, so I know how to do a bit of editing on photos and videos, but I did predominantly use AI for that artwork,
Hmm.
and I just used it, and then I remember someone commented and was like, "Is this?" A couple of people said different points about the Escape. "Is this artwork AI?" And I had to be honest, and I was like, "Yeah, I'm embarrassed to say that it is because I definitely wouldn't use it for my music, and that's the predominant thing. But every single album artwork that I've done since The Escape, and I've had 8 tracks come out, has always been a photo that I've taken with my camera, and then edited that my own way. I've not used AI at all. Um,
There's nothing wrong with it if that because pretty much every single DJ I've spoken to, bar of couple, have said that it is so expensive to get a
yeah,
graphic designer. And when
yeah,
you are like me, prime example, I've got no debt with my business because I don't want it. I don't want a startup loan. I don't want this, but people do. And then a graphic designer, sometimes you can be paying in the thousands. And it's
yeah,
easier to just go, well, sadly, you do see it where businesses now, like they do, like, I don't know, if they're like a local window cleaner, they see the posters and they're all the same generic. I don't know what app it is, but they're all the same. And it's like, okay. But, personally speaking, I've had to use AI personally to, like when I edit, there might be something that I miss. Arguments like I had Tim Wilde on a few weeks ago. We were talking about spiritual stuff and his doorbell went and I was scrolling through. I could not find this bit where the doorbell went because I had to edit it out. And I had to type it into AI. Can you find this? And it found it just like that. So it can be
yeah,
used as a very useful tool. So there's no shame in that. But I think most of the musicians' arguments at the moment, and I have to agree, when there are Suno artists out there, and that's why I call them Suno artists, where they say, "This is my track," and it's on TikTok, and they've got millions of followers.
yeah,
But actually, what I found out from one of my friends, Joe, big up Joe, he's an artist in London, and he does like R&B and stuff like that. And he even said to me, "Did you know that the likes of Suno's getting sued because they're actually trained off other people's music?"
yeah.
So that is a massive, like, conflict of interest, and I think that's actually very dangerous, and some big artists didn't even know that their music was being used by AI. There's a website where you can check whether
Mm.
your music's being trained, with AI, and if that's the case, you can actually ask to have it removed, and I think that should absolutely be every single musician should know that
Yeah.
because you've produced, like, Set Me Free. You've produced that. You've sat down, you've put that together, you've spent hours editing that and all, and then someone's gone, "Yeah, like that, chuck it in AI." You've got a track that's very similar, and then they're making money off that. That's horrendous.
Well, I think actually, before I've been a gardener for a year, and the reason I mentioned that is because a year ago, I was trying to figure out what job to go into. I used to be a videographer,
Right.
and I thought, what could I do? And before I found that I was gonna do gardening, I considered, one of the most important jobs needed, and more of a kind of crisis thing for the world, is AI governance. I
Okay.
would hate doing that because you'd have to be sat in front of a computer all the time, and, I love gardening, but the thing is, it's so important because of stuff like this. Like, if there's more AI governance in terms of safety around AI, it's going to prevent potentially even world disasters from happening.
Yep.
Um, so it's super important, I think. And I was really considering it more so just to do almost like good for the world. But it's just something that needs to be happening more. More people need to be doing jobs like that. Because AI is actually a world threat. Like, it's the biggest. Apparently, according to a book which is on that shelf over there, called 80,000 Hours, it says that the AI is the number one, even more dangerous than climate change and anything like that.
Well, AI
Um,
actually contributes to climate change because you've got
mm,
obviously so many fans that is running it, water that's being pumped in, and I'm thinking flipping out. But yeah, I think so too because ChatGPT, for instance, he is so clever. I say he because literally it's a man's voice, but like he's so clever that he knows me. And that's like, "Ooh, did I overshare a little bit with you?" Because at one point, this man was literally my therapist because I couldn't afford to go for a private therapy. But yeah, it was like, it's terrifying actually when you think about it because yes, it can be used for good, but I've been a victim of AI voice changing. I used to run a charity a couple of years ago, and someone that was a volunteer took a bit of a disliking. They took my voice off a voice note because I'm a voice note kind of gal, adjusted it, altered it, and sent it into someone that works for quite a big charity and tried to get me sacked, basically. And it was like, whoa. And I had to prove myself. But
that's
back
awful. Yeah.
then, AI wasn't that clever. So it was like you could tell it wasn't me. There was very much, I'm very I over sort of emphasize words and I have a tone to me. Whereas this was very artificial like this. It was very much a artificial
That's
kind of
terrifying,
monotone.
isn't it? It's
Yeah,
like horror movie material.
it really was. And I sat there with this like manager woman and she was like, I'm gonna play you this voice note. I want you to tell me if this is you. And then I played it and she was like, this version of me was like the manager was called Mary. Mary is an F in this, an F in that. And I went, well, I don't swear like that for one. I do swear, but I don't swear like that. I mean, they were very clever. They added in my favorite words.
Yeah,
But yeah, it was like, wow, this is happening. And look, as it was cleared and
yeah.
whatever, but I see them sometimes walking around in my town. And I think, how could you do that to someone? That can destroy lives. And that's why I always say to people online, I've did a video about it on TikTok, don't post kids, especially under 16s, minors, do not post them on that app because the
Yeah,
things that people can do with your child's image now is terrifying.
yeah. I think the thing that you said about, it can be used for good, and I actually think in the right hands, AI can be an incredibly powerful tool. You said you used it for bits of therapy. I'm not gonna lie, I use ChatGPT, I type things in where I only type things in where I actually think it's gonna know the answer.
Yeah,
Like, if it's something which is a bit vague where it's like, it could be wrong, I'm very particular and careful what I choose to use ChatGPT for, but there are some things, like
absolutely.
even DJing, like, there's, like, things I'm looking online, I'm like, "I can't find the answer to this." I type in ChatGPT, "How do I do this for DJing?" And it just tells me straight away. I'm like, "Oh, it's just this
Exactly.
setting in here," like, and I'm like, so that's great. If it's used
It
in the right
can be
hands, I think
really good like
it can
that.
be really
Yeah.
good. Yeah, yeah.
I used it for it's just quite cringe actually. But like if you have, and this is the thing with UK food and stuff that irritates the hell out of me. If a can's 333 mil, you're telling me what the calories are for 100 mil. No, I need to know what it is for the whole can. And when I'm just not in the right frame of mind, I cannot be bothered to work it out. I'll send a picture, be like, chat, can you work out the calories for this, please? But it works. It does work. But yeah, I think like I say, it can be used for good, but
Yeah, most
it's
of it's gonna be, bad.
yeah.
Yeah.
I did at one point. I don't know if this is like too movie kind of concept, but AI being uploaded into a body per se. And I know they're already doing it, but I can see it happening in our lifetime. I do think it will.
It's scary, isn't it? It's terrifying.
Yeah, especially like if you're walking down the street and then you've got, I don't know, like just they it like talks to you. It's kind of creepy, isn't it? Because like you
It'd
can
be
talk.
really creepy. I mean, I don't think in our lifetime they'll be able to make them so that you can't tell if it's a real human or not in real life. I think now it's getting way closer to, making videos that you're like, "I genuinely don't know if this is AI or not." It's like, I remember even only like a year ago or 2, maybe 2 years ago, but even a year ago,
Mm,
they made videos and you're like, I can so clearly see this as AI, but it's so quickly, like rapidly advancing that now it's like, unless it's like a cat dancing or something, and it's like the cat
yeah.
doing their moves, but now it's like so much with video, like you can't tell if it's AI. But then I don't think in real life, in our lifetime, they're going to be able to make synthetic humans that you think, is this a real human or not? But maybe at
Would
some point.
do. And maybe when I'm elderly in a retirement home or something, I don't know. But like Did you ever watch, it was on Channel 4, God, it must have been about 10 years ago, called Humans?
Oh yeah, I didn't actually watch a full episode of that, but I remember seeing clips of it. Yeah,
Watch it, honestly. It's not far from reality.
yeah,
And there was another one, but I can't think of the name of it. It was like it was all to do with it was Channel 4 do a lot of these documentaries, like they turned it into a series. And at the time you think, like Black Mirror on Netflix, like some of it you think, oh, that will never happen in our lifetime. But actually when you look at it, yeah, it probably will happen.
yeah,
Especially with things like they did, was it ABBA? They did, or was it Whitney Houston or something like that? They did like a hologram sort of, and it looks real.
yeah. It's
And
mad.
yeah, and I genuinely think it's probably gonna come to a point where that will probably become normal. I personally wouldn't pay to see a hologram. I want to pay to see the real person.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, what's coming up for you anyway, the rest of this year? Have you got any sort of gigs? Are you playing it anywhere?
So, is it? It's Wednesday today, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, it is, yeah.
Tomorrow, tomorrow I'm playing at Volk's nightclub in Brighton,
Nice.
so that should be fun. Um, so I'm playing 11 till 12. And the thing is as well with me is like I chose to start learning to produce way before I DJ'd, and I definitely think that producing to the point where you can release music and you're confident is getting there. Like I have such high standards. I even still don't think I'm. I mean, I have to be humble with myself because it's like if you look at 1991, Andromedic, Wilkinson, whoever, Cameron Crooked, they're like the best in the world at what they do. Like they're the top of drum and bass producers that are out there. And I'm like trying to compete with them. And then I look at my music, I'm like, oh, it's not hitting quite as hard as them. I'm like, well, yeah, like they've been doing it for like 25 years.
Yeah, they've got a they've I mean, to be fair, I think how old's Andrew? I think he's literally like he's in his late 20s. He's only a
Well, I was going
babby,
to say
like
Andromeda. People like K9, for example, he's been producing, I think, since he was about 12. I started
yeah.
producing at 21. So I think, yeah,
You've done
I have
well
to be.
though,
Well, I mean, I
definitely.
definitely think it's getting a bit closer to starting to compete with that, but I've got very high standards of myself. But yeah, so I can't remember where I was going with it. With the what were we saying about the? I'm trying to remember why I
Oh,
mentioned.
I'm terrible for these kinds of
No,
things, but yeah,
it was something to do with playing the set in Brighton. I can't remember. Oh yeah, I learned to produce first, but then
yeah, that was right, yeah.
I got to the standard that I could get to where I was like, I feel like I can release music now. But then I've not been DJing for long. Like, I mean, I started learning maybe 2 3 years ago, but I wasn't. I was DJing maybe like practicing like once every 3 months, not even at the start. And then now in the last year, I've been practicing a lot more. But I've not done that many live sets to be honest.
Wow.
But I think I definitely prefer doing it this way because I know that if I'd have started DJing before producing, I know there's a lot of DJs in the same boat where they really good DJs and they can blend and do double drops and everything really well. But then when they're like sat in front of Ableton, trying to produce, they're like, So I think
Yeah,
I definitely
yeah.
prefer the way I've done it, where I've started with the production and then learning to DJ. Um,
Mm.
but I also think that it's completely different from going from practicing in, your bedroom studio to like playing live. Because when I have played live, it's different because you've got real people to interact with like, in the crowd. Um, and it's a different vibe. And I was the times like even in Portugal when I did that set in the middle of the woods in the mountains, like it was so much easier to have more energy and make decisions when you're blending tracks and like um makes it so much more fun, but also that it's just you kind of it reminds me of when I was performing guitar on stage. I used to be in a rock band when I was like 16, 17, and so in terms of upcoming, that's the only DJ set I've actually got upcoming that I've set, and that's tomorrow evening. But I'm looking forward to that for
No,
sure.
it's amazing. No, it's good. And the thing is, like, a lot of like, I can tell. I've sat down. The reason that my podcast exists is because of Andromedic. I actually sat down and had an informal interview with him before I started the podcast. Like, honestly, best interview. But I wish I'd have recorded it because he told me so much in depth stuff, and I was like, oh my god. But like,
Wow.
yeah, like I bumped into him in a hotel. Like, you couldn't even make it up. Like how that even happened, and when I sat down with him, I was sat there shaking like this because I'm like, this is literally like one of my favorite people in the
Yeah.
world. And I said, oh my God, I said it to him. And I remember this now. Like, you know, when everyone says, like, to you, what's your most embarrassing moment? I can tell you what mine is because I said to him, I never thought I'd share a lift with my favorite person. Why would I say that? Like, and I sit there and I cringe and I think, oh my God, because the adrenaline was going. But he said to me, he was like, this was really enjoyable. You should do a podcast. And I was like, oh, I don't know. And he was like, don't let things like not allow you to follow your dreams sort of thing. And I just went,
Mm.
okay. So I go back, I seen the, you know, seeing the artist live. And then obviously then I got in contact with Leisha, who was doing, she was on just before Andromedic. She was one of my first guests that were in the drum and bass world. And like I say, people giving you a chance. You know, I went into this completely blind. Like I had the social media background, you know, because I did things 10 years ago. But like the world's changed since 2016. Life has changed so substantially. But like being around people that give you that opportunity, and it will be the same for you. Like having somebody will listen to Set Me Free or one of your other tracks and go, I like him. And that's when the collabs start happening. And that's one of I feel like I'm a bit of a middleman with this because like when I advertise you, there'll be other artists that I've had on, they'll go, "Who's he?" And that's how it all spirals, and I love it, and I love watching it happen because 'cause I'm just, like, cheering everybody on, and it's a lovely feeling, but it will happen for you,
Can I
definitely. I
can I
just
tell you one of my, like, one of my goals, which it probably won't happen, but it's you gotta aim high, right, is to collab with Andromedic.
We'll tell him
Can
when
you
I see him.
imagine, like, maybe in 10 years, you know?
No, genuinely though, I am such a cheeky git. Like he's playing at Worried About Henry next week. I have said to him, I was like, because I sat with him and drank Merlot. I'm so tempted to make a sign going, fancy a Merlot, Andrew. And I was just like, I'm so tempted to do it just to, you know. But no, I'm the same. I've aimed high. I've messaged his manager and I'm like, look, I'm coming to Belgium in October. I want to see Andro live, obviously, again, but I would love to actually give him an official interview. Now, he never said no, but it's his management. I've got to try. They get because they gatekeep, don't they? This is the problem. So I'm trying to break these barriers down. Like, just checking in. Have you made a decision yet? Because, like, if you don't ask, there's nothing wrong with asking. Because what's the
Yeah.
worst they're going to say? No.
Yeah.
But you know, I'm so tempted. Like, will you collab with an over on a sign? No, I'm genuinely
Oh,
speaking though, like if I do see him again, which I know I will say something because I think that's like he's probably like the same as kind of all of us. Like he's this very sweet soul. And you know, some of the DJs that I have actually met, obviously albeit on here, M Joy is another prime example. He's one to listen to. He's literally like helped me out so much by promotion, exception. He's amazing. Like I've just interviewed Dux, who just did a track with Tea and Sugar. That is some filthy bass. Like some of the people that I've interviewed, like I don't see you all as having like a class or he's a beginner or he's into you're all to me the same because you're all just awesome.
aw. No, that's
So
that I think that's the best, just having that attitude of
mm,
you know, because I also think just a side note is that, um, at least this is what I've heard. When you've got, say, like people who are if you were to label an artist, but people who are starting out and then the top. So, you've got, you know, anyone like Subfocus
oh
or
god,
or
yeah, yeah.
the ones in between, apparently, I've heard can be less understanding than the top guys or
Okay.
women, you know, and I feel like that's purely because when you've started out and you're up and coming, but then you break to that point where you're like starting to get it's working and it's starting to happen. It's like more of a fan base. You might, even if you're not trying to, and you're not doing it consciously, you might then think, "Oh well, I'm starting to become a big deal." But then it's actually the big ones, like you say, like Andromedic. He's a really sound guy,
Oh, he's
like
lovely. Yeah.
genuine people. It's because I mean they are. I absolutely love Andromedic. He's amazing, and from what I've seen and heard, like especially from you now as well, like he's a really genuine guy. Like
He's a
he is
sweetie.
at the
Yeah.
top, and he doesn't need to be like you know in that way. It's just he's just a genuine guy, and um that's it's really nice to see, stuff like that.
There's a few actually. I mean, to be fair, a lot of these DJs that are the sweethearts of, I mean, a lot of I've not spoke to, funny enough, I've not spoke to loads of people from the UK. It's quite funny, really. But like, I mean, just going through my list, I've got, Skybread, he's another one.
I know Sky
He's but there a lot of them actually are from Belgium. There's a
Yeah,
big
yeah.
drum and bass scene in Belgium. Dux, who I interviewed from Australia, like it's just I think drum and bass. I've been in several communities of music. For me, it's the most united. And you're right. I mean, people that are starting out, and even people like I have met some big drum and bass artists, and I found one was exceptionally rude to me. And I was a bit like, get off your high horse, honey, but okay. Like it was very much a, oh, you're not, and I just think like some of the middlemen, if you will, I think as soon as you've got a manager, that you're instantly gatekeeped. And I think that's what I find so difficult because the music industry, before you've got a manager, you'll go into that community, you'll go above and beyond for people, you'll do these things, you know, and they become effectively part of your family. But then when you've got a manager, you've got to, you're then competing with the industry, and the
Mm.
industry is the one that goes, we won't benefit financially off you. We're not interested. And it's like, well, actually, the artist themselves wants to collaborate with me. Well, we're saying no, they've got a big schedule. And it just makes you feel so crap because you wish you could just speak to these people directly and just be like, tell
Yeah.
them to do one. It's your life. But I suppose that's the thing when you're in a contract, you've got to fulfill it, haven't you? So, and that, like I say, I think like the community makes the music. And I think sometimes the industry forgets that. So,
Yeah, and I don't have a manager at the moment, and I'm don't think I need one at the minute. But like all my releases, every single one has been independent. Just do DistroKid, 4 weeks in advance, and
yeah, yeah.
I've never released any music through a label, and I've had offers, and they've said like, "Oh, do you want to release through our label?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'll let you know if I do in the future." But I don't know. I mean, especially since I learned that what I mentioned earlier about TikTok and learning how to make music first content, and that just works. And it's yeah. I mean, maybe at some point I need a manager, but actually I'm quite
Who knows?
enjoying just like you say, you're just talking to the real artist and talking to them rather than having to be gate kept.
And it
Like
yeah, and it's memorable for the people that actually listen to the music because like I say, I'm in a WhatsApp group and it's all for ravers. And I told them like so people are like, oh, I've just found your podcast. Who have you interviewed? And I sent this list and everyone's like, whoa. So people want to listen to it because they want to know who the person is. But why did you make that track? Why is that happening? Like I asked Andromedic out, like I said to him, Air is going to be probably when I die and I'm ascending to heaven. That's probably going to be playing, and if it doesn't, I'll be like, "Can we do that again?"
yeah,
And and I said, and I actually had to say to him to his face, like, thank you for producing that because
Mm.
you've inspired me so much." And same with you, thank you for doing that track because I felt like I was in space and it was great. So,
Oh, thanks.
so honestly, it's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you today, lovely. He's actually probably one of my favourites because you've it's just been so easy. So thank you.
Oh, no worries. I appreciate that a lot. No, you've been
And
lovely.
the
Thank
fact
you so much.
you listen to tunes in your car and, it's not confirmed unless it sounds good in the car, and that's
Yeah,
exactly it hits different. So, no,
yeah.
honestly, I really appreciate it. Thank you.
No, thank you as well. I appreciate it.
Oh, you're Thank you so much for listening, guys. You can find my podcast every Tuesday and Thursday, and don't forget to follow me on all social media platforms. See you next time.